Hello guys, welcome to this masterclass. Today I'm going to be talking about the ego and a little bit of Taoism in there. Now some of you may be thinking, okay, I've heard the word ego and what the hell is Taoism? So for a long time now I have been very open to so much of this world and what it has to offer. Now my journey has led me down to become an ego coach. Now, what that basically means is I help women mostly to understand the ego and to really sit with what it means, to understand it and to evolve it. So if I take you back, I would say 10, 20,000 years ago when humans kind of like really came into play. You know, my partner, if he's watching this ever, he'll think, because he studies evolution. So he'll be thinking, come on, Pip, you should know the answers to this. But let's just say 10,000 years ago. We were living in caves, you know, we didn't have much, you know, like we do now. And basically our whole life was about survival. Our whole life was about, you know, staying alive and not being eaten by saber-tooths and different predators that were out there. And the ego then served us well because the ego was meant to, you know, to protect us, to keep us alive. Now, as the centuries passed and we hit 2021, the ego has evolved in many ways. And for me, I have done ego work. I am aware of what my ego sounds like. I'm aware of the things the ego tells me. So I want you to grasp the idea that the ego is here to protect us. It's not something that we want to get rid of completely. And that's kind of like the main thing that I want to talk to people about, is because people think getting rid of the ego is the main thing, and it's not. So the healthy ego is what keeps us alive, makes us eat, stops us from getting run over in the road. You know, it helps us to stay alive and survive. The original part of us, you know, that going back that DNA, them 10,000 years ago, that is the original nature of the ego. Now, this is where the Tao will come into, the Taoism. So the Tao talks about going back to your original nature. Now, the Tao isn't a religion, it's a philosophy, and I'm still learning so much about the Tao, but it is a very interesting topic. And I like how the two combine really well. Now, one of my spiritual teachers, Wayne Dyer, he talks about the Tao a lot. He wrote a book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And that was basically a modern version of the Tao. Now, the Tao Te Ching was written 500 years before the Bible. Now, if any of you have read the Tao, amazing. If you've read Wayne's book, amazing. And when you read the Tao, it really just makes you think, oh, this is our original nature. And it is about connecting to that energy, source, the universe, God, however you would connect to it. And it was written by a man called Lao Tzu. Now, 2,500 years ago, it was written over in East Asia, and things were different then. And there is 81 verses of the Tao. 81, one infinite source, you know, 8 is infinity, and then number 1. So one infinite source, and that is us. So imagine being in nature with your pets, with any animals. You are connected to every living thing on this planet. Plants, trees, grass, other humans, animals, everything is connected by the same energy. Now, when you think about that, it makes you think, oh, so we're all connected by this same energy. So, you know, why are we so separate? Why is there this huge divide? Why is this, you know, discord between humanity and the planet? And that's why I do what I do, to help people connect back to that original nature. So one of my favorite quotes from the Tao is, the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. So what that means is you can't name the energy. Yes, you can connect to universe, source, God, but it doesn't really matter what you call it, because the Tao that can be named is not the internal Tao. It's just there, always. It's here now with me. It's surrounding me. It's through, I'm talking through it. It's something we cannot see with the eye. We cannot feel it and touch it, but we can feel it in an energy sense. So the Tao has taught me a lot about connecting back to our original nature, and it made me realize what my values are. So if any of you watching, I would like you to sit and think about, what are your values? What are your true values? So I will touch on a quantum shift because Wayne talks about that, and it is very important when it comes to values, because before a quantum shift, your values are maybe this set, and then after a quantum shift, they do change. And there is a book called Quantum Change that, Wayne recommended to read, and it is fascinating, how our values change after quantum shift. The ego wants more. The ego wants more money, more material things, more accolade, where the Tao in you wants just peace and harmony and joy. So I connected to the values of the Tao Te Ching, and they were kindness, gentleness, reverence for all life, and service to others. Now, when I connect to these 4 values every day, they make me feel alive, because they are the true essence of who we are. As the centuries have passed, power has taken over, greed, and this all stems from ego, wanting more, not being fulfilled. So I will tell you now, the ego is very convincing and it is never fulfilled. So Wayne says ego stands for edging God out, EGO. Now, if you put that into context, that is literally what it's doing. So think about, connected to universe, God, energy, that source. That's the same word as God. So you're edging that energy out. You're edging God out of your life, which means you're not in alignment. It's a misalignment every time you do that. So I help clients to connect back to that original nature within you, the Tao within you. Everyone has the Tao within them, and they have to be able to open their eyes to see it. Now, this is where quantum change comes in. If you'd mentioned quantum change to me 5 years ago, I would have said, what does this mean? And you may be thinking that now. A quantum change is, you've heard of quantum physics. It literally is a total shift in energy. And even Wayne, if you've ever watched The Shift, Wayne's movie, The Shift, you can't describe a quantum shift. It is literally so hard to describe, because if you haven't been through it, it's just the hardest thing to put into words. Now, I had my quantum shift last April, and without going into too much detail, I basically had an encounter in nature with Mother Earth, and that just changed my life completely. And since then, I've had little quantum leaps, them aha moments. Oh, yeah, aha, like, yes, this, the next thing and the next thing. So when we think of the quantum shift, this is when our values change. So the ego, the little inner critic in your head, will be saying things like, I need more money. I need a bigger house. I need a better car. I need better clothes. It's always striving for more. Now, when Wayne talks about the ego, and this is why I really like how he explains it, the ego, like I said, will never be fulfilled. You could never fill. It's like a cup that has a hole in it. So when you're trying to fill your cup and it's the ego's cup, it will just pour out. So when you connect to the Tao, that's when you're filling your cup. It's like your chalice, your own holy grail. So the ego will be saying things like, I am what I do. I am what I own. I am what I earn. I am what other people think of me. Now, we have to detach from people's opinions, because people's opinions of us have nothing to do with us. And that's where a lot of the work that I do, the inner work with clients. And then this comes into play. having a mind open to everything and attached to nothing. So the ego attaches to people's opinions. For example, you could be really judged in a workplace. You could be really judged at home, in your relationships, in friendships. And we have to detach from people's opinions, because ultimately the only opinion that matters is our own, of ourselves. So if your opinion isn't highly of you, then that's where we would look at the self-love aspect, and the worthiness. So I really resonate with the whole having a mind open to everything, attached to nothing, because there's so many things out there we could believe in and read and research, but having it just, your mind just open, it just helps to help with that, not be attached to certain things, which ultimately helps you to connect to the Tao. So some of the things that I do to help me connect to the Tao. The first one is nature. Like every day I have to be out in nature and do some forest bathing. That just basically means, walking through the forest and the trees, and, leaving your phone at home or in the car, and really connecting to that energy. My partner, Chris, he read a book called The Secret Therapy of Trees. And we were just blown away, that energy within you is in that tree. And we used to place our hands on some trees, and the energy you could feel from the tree was just magnificent. And we'd be dizzy when we come away from it. So they say if you stand next to a tree for like 10 minutes a day, it will literally decrease your cortisol, all those stress hormones, your anxiety and your worries. So imagine that, just doing 10 minutes a day with the trees. The same with animals, if you've got dogs, pets, horses, things like that, you're spending time with them, quality time, and connecting to that animal, because the energy in them is within you. So back to the ego. When we think of the ego is to protect our inner child. So we all have an inner child. And that child has been through many different things, whether it be trauma, abuse. It could even be, misbehavior, sometimes mental health issues. But ultimately, how you were brought up by your caregivers, your parents, will affect your later life. And this is the work that I've started to study. So when we go back to our childhood, it can be very painful. But ultimately, it defines our whole life. Our childhood is very important to go back into. So no matter what your childhood looked like, this is why the ego comes in, to protect you. So let's use an example. So if you were bullied through primary school, our first school we went to, anyone from America watching, it's elementary school, I think, or even kindergarten. You were told you're not good enough, you're ugly, you're fat, whatever the words were. Those things stick with you. If you're in an abusive household, those triggers. See, the traumatic event is the event. It's how you see it. So you're in that trauma. So how you react to that trauma, seeing that traumatic event, your body may react in different ways, and then that sticks. And it is a complex process. But this masterclass is about the ego and the Tao. So just use an example. So as you get older, there could come a time where someone says something to you in university, in a workplace, which is similar to something that happened as when you were a child, which you've completely forgotten about. Now, your pain body will go, oh, that happened, and it happened again. So you will react in a way to protect yourself. And a lot of the time that can be, in anxiety, because it's your body's just coping with it. So it is really important to do that inner work, to hire a coach, a therapist to help you through that. So with the ego, I want you to befriend the ego, because it is your protector. What we want to, ditch is the toxic ego. The ego that stops you from being the higher self, being your true self, because ultimately it's the false self. It's an illusion. And it is a very convincing illusion. So, that inner voice that says you're not good enough, you're not worthy, You'll never be good at English. You'll never be good at singing. You'll never be good at this. And, you know, you'll never earn enough money. You'll never have that house. You know, that inner critic that tells you all of those things to make you feel the fear. That is what we want to work through. That is what we want to turn around and reprogram. So the key thing for anyone new to ego work is awareness. That is the key first part of any work to do with the ego. Awareness is key. So you could be out and about and you can hear that inner critic step in. That's why it's really good to name your ego. Give it a name. So mine is called Ursula because I'm a Disney fanatic. So I like to just use a baddie off one of the Disney films. So when you hear Ursula come in to, you know, start to tell you all this spiel about you're not good enough, you're rubbish, you're ugly, you look fat in that dress, whatever it is that that your ego's telling yourself, become aware of when it happens. And this is why we use triggers. So there will be a trigger. So think of a time when you have been triggered, you're just in a really good mood, you're having a great day, and someone says or does something and you just get triggered. And that's when your whole mood will change. The anxiety creeps in, you start to feel the heart flutters, they get sweaty palms, the heart's, you know, that's when like you just feel the stomach churns, you know, that's the anxiety creeps in. So I want you to really start to become aware of the triggers, become aware of those emotional changes without your day and throughout your day, and start to write them down. Use a journal, have a trigger journal, and that really helps to start to see the patterns, because the ego will have patterns, and that's when you start to see them and you can, you know, start to break the chain. So it is really important work. So I would really recommend you go and do some research around it, you know, because a lot of people are coming in to know more about the ego and its true purpose, and understanding its true purpose, understanding that it is here to evolve. So today I've just started a new membership called Egolution. So this is all about evolving the ego. So Egolution, just a name that came to me while I was meditating. And I love it because I like to help people to understand the ego. So write down the triggers, the patterns that you see. And I want you to start meditating too, because that will really help to quieten your mind. Getting out in nature helps too. But ultimately, this does not happen overnight. This work will be with you, you know, for a long time. I'm still learning. I'm still working on my ego. And one big piece of advice I want to give you is, you may have done a lot of ego work and trigger work, and you may get slight triggers, like little ones, and you think, oh, it's fine, it's just a little one, I'll just pass it. But ultimately, they are the biggest ones. I got triggered very slight last week, and I thought, oh, it's just a little one, but I'll let it pass, it doesn't matter. And I thought, no, that's me trying to avoid, and that's avoidance. So I was like, no. So I decided to sit with it, and it ended up being, you know, stemming from a deep rooted belief of trust. So there will be many triggers, you know, especially, you know, I've got clients who have had abandonment issues, abuse, things like that, you know. So it is very delicate work, and it is good to have someone or some people to hold space for you, a very non-judgmental, loving space. So let's talk a little bit about the Tao. So the Tao came into my life, and it is a philosophy, so it's not a religion. And the fact that it was written before the Bible, like, even, again, a mind open to everything, attached to nothing. There are some passages in the Bible that I think, wow, that is really important to share. Really important to share. Like even the Moses story, like just the faith and the belief, you know, in what, you know, having that open mind to it all. But when you read the Tao, like I really recommend you read the Tao, read the original Tao, and then get Wayne's book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And when you're reading each of the verses, you apply it to your day. You apply it to your day, and you think, wow, it fits in with my day so well. You know, and there's 81 verses, so, you know, I could talk hours and hours about them, but ultimately it's a journey and it's your experience within that too. But it is a philosophy, it's a way of life, and it's I truly believe it's the original way of life. Connecting to nature, connecting to animals, but it helps you to connect back to who you truly are in the core, your soul being, your, you know, that inner being of who you're truly meant to be. So think before, like, so this is why they say the ego is being developed between, you know, the ages of being born to 7, and then things start to change, and then you go through another stage and another stage. So you will have memories that will come up in your subconscious that you may have forgotten about, because that's what happens. You know, we tend to just store them and forget about them. I was sexually assaulted when I was 20, and I'd completely forgotten about it. And it wasn't until my parents had been cleaning my room out and they found the paperwork from the police reports, and a whole load of emotions came up last year when I was with my partner here, and we did a little ritual and we burnt the papers and I let it go. But I'd buried that so deep, I'd forgotten all about it. And that's what happens. Them traumatic events, they want to be buried because they're not nice to experience. But bringing them up is challenging, but bringing them up is for the healing aspect of moving forward. I will honestly say, a hand on my heart, the key thing I've done that has helped me go from fear to love is forgiveness. It's the hardest thing to do, to forgive those who've hurt us, to forgive those who wronged us. But as Wayne talks about, you know, who are we to judge them? They're on their path doing what they're meant to do. And I truly believe everyone who comes into our life to challenge us, you know, to be nasty to us, we put there for our sake, for our growth. So every time you're triggered, see it as growth, see it as an opportunity for growth. Because what will happen is the ego wants you to go into victim mode. Oh, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why is always this? Why do I always get left out? Why is this always happening to me? And that is what the ego likes to do, get into victim mode. You know, think of a victim mode just like crawling into a ball and saying, oh, leave me alone, I don't want. But think about standing your truth and thinking, oh, I'm going to own these emotions and sit with these emotions. It's really important work, and I can't stress enough how important the work is and how rewarding the work is. It's hard, it's challenging, but having the right people around you, having those really safe space to be in, to allow to be vulnerable. Like, vulnerability is the most amazing energy to be in, because being vulnerable allows you to be open and, you know, just be authentic and be truthful. Sit with those emotions and feel them all. Let them come up to the surface. Let them, you know, scream them out, shout them out, you know, let those emotions come in, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And being a human means feeling anger, feeling sadness, feeling the fears, but then moving past them and coming into alignment, coming into strength and peace. You know, find your inner peace. That is one thing I want to say, is forgiveness for me brings you peace. Because again, the ego wants to be right. The ego wants revenge. The ego, you know, that's the energy you don't want to be in, but you have to ride through those waves to get to the Tao, to that original nature within you. It's within all of you listening to this. The Tao runs within you, and I know it, and I'm sending you the Tao. I'm sending you from my heart to yours. So I want to just say, this journey I'm on has been such an adventure. I can't wait. I know my ego work will carry on and on. My goal is to be an enlightened being before I pass, because when we pass, we become enlightened anyway. I want to be an enlightened being on this planet before I pass. And that's what I strive. You know, I strive for that, and I want to help others, you know, get on the path of enlightenment. So I would like you to reach out to me if any of this has been resonating with you, if any of you have any questions. You can find me on Instagram, Mother Earth Healer Pippa. My website is motherearthrising.co.uk, and I'm on Facebook, Pippa Leslie. So I just want to send you so much love for this journey. I want you to trust in your journey. I want you to fully have faith in the universe, in the Tao, in God. So before I finish, I want to say, for the 9 months that you were in your mum's tummy, everything you needed was there. Everything. And when we come out, it's the same. You know, that flow. And if we can connect to that flow throughout our whole life, we won't need to worry about anything ever again, because we know everything's going to come into our life at the exact time we need it. There's no need to worry, fear, have anxiety anymore, because everything we need will be given to us. The challenges help us grow. If we are in a really low state at the moment, you know, when you get into the low energies, the only way is up. The only way is up from that energy. So I'm sending you love if you're in that state right now. Everything is temporary. Everything that you're going through is temporary. That is a given. And I want to make sure that you are holding space for you. You're being gentle with yourself. Connect to that energy. Trust in that energy. It has you. There's been so many synchronicities that's happened to me since I met my partner. And we are being tested all the time. You think you get so far and then the universe tests you again. I want you to trust. If you're not where you want to be right now, you are exactly where you're meant to be. The ego will try and convince you otherwise. And that's the key of being aware. What is your ego telling you every day? And work with those emotions. So I really hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. It's the work I love. I adore this work. I have so much passion for it, and I can't wait to see all of you on the path to enlightenment. I really can't. So I will leave you there. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. And again, reach out if you have any questions. Much love, guys. Bye.